There comes a time in our life in gaming where we play a game where we become so immersed in the game that we actually become the protagonist. The game that has recently captured my heart is Guilt. Guilt is a survival horror game developed by Tequila Works. No, not the alcohol. It was initially released in November of 2019 for the Google Stadia. It was unavailable for purchase until 2023 for the PlayStation and Xbox consoles on March 14, 2024 for the Nintendo Switch. Guilt takes place in the fictional mining town of Bethelwood, Maine, where the player controls the protagonist, Sally, a young teenage girl who is searching for her younger cousin, Emily, who has gone missing. Sally has hung missing posters around town, desperately attempting to locate her younger cousin. The story begins with Sally riding her bike through town, hanging posters. Then she is being chased by bullies and crashes her bike. See, there goes those feelings. This is when things begin to take a turn. Sally avoids the bullies by boarding a cable car that takes her into a nightmare reality filled with monsters that parallels the real world. Sally will need to find Emily, who is lost inside the school. You will find different items of evidence that will help lead you to Emily. Sally will find journal entries where Emily is journaling her feelings and thoughts about her experience being trapped in the nightmare school, as well as her thoughts about her big cousin Sally and how she feels that Sally left Emily to deal with the bullying by herself. The journal entries express the feelings of not being able to fit in, how everybody makes fun of her despite her being nice to everyone. Don't just blow these journal entries off, as they contain vital information that will help you locate Emily. You will need the journal entries as well as other clues to help navigate your way to rescue Sally's lost cousin. You now have to navigate your character through this nightmare's town, only equipped with a flashlight that obviously poses the issues of defense. What can I do with only a flashlight? You have the option of sneaking around town to avoid the monsters. There's a white meter that gets larger or smaller, indicating whether you have been spotted by the monster. If the meter turns yellow, your location has been compromised. If the meter turns red, it alerts all the monsters to attack you. Sally encounters a multitude of puzzles along the way that require strategic thinking, using car batteries to open doors, finding items that unlock doors, and improvising on the go, using items such as carts and desks. But there still lies the problem. You only have a flashlight. Throughout the journey, you will find small, and I mean very small, power-ups. You need batteries to keep your flashlight charged, so be mindful of the uses. You will eventually come across a more powerful flashlight that can be used in two different ways. One way is to use a flashlight to generate energy to operate things like doors. The other way is to obliterate monsters, but it's not easy as it sounds. In order to utilize the overpowered flashlight, you need to sneak up behind a monster and perform in what can be presumed as a melee type attack, where you inject the light into the monster, which destroys them. But do this with caution, as it will alert the other monsters to your whereabouts. You also will come across a fire extinguisher. Yep, a flashlight and a fire extinguisher. The fire extinguisher can be used to freeze monsters temporarily, allowing Sally to escape. The extinguisher can also be used to freeze objects such as gears that will stop equipment from moving so that Sally can get through a tight spot, or freeze nozzles on pipes that will block steam from spraying and injuring Sally. The final way the extinguisher can be used is to freeze puddles of water that may have a broken, energized electrical wire running through it and allow Sally to move past that location. Despite having these weapons, Sally is not fast. You may use a temporary speed boost, but it's in short spurts, and your gauge will need to refill before being able to sprint again. There are other items that will be needed along the way, such as soda cans that are used as decoys to distract monsters and take their attention away from Sally, or inhalers that are used to restore Sally's health. Let's talk about the graphics. Visually, Guilt has a distinct, almost animated horror aesthetic, reminiscent of movies like Coraline or Nightmare Before Christmas. The game overall presents well. The environments are dark, foggy, and dripping with unsettling details. Abandoned schools, shadowy streets, and monster-infested corridors all contribute to the eerie tone. While the Switch version understandably takes a hit in resolution and lighting effects compared to other platforms, the game still manages to maintain its haunting charm. The character models can look a bit soft and some textures are lower quality, but the overall art direction remains strong. Let's talk about the controls. The controls in Guilt are simple and functional, making it accessible for players of all skill levels. You'll navigate Sally, the main character, through the haunted town of Bethelwood using standard third-person movement with the ability to crouch, run, climb, and interact with objects. The flashlight, a key gameplay tool, doubles as both a light source and a weapon against the game's shadowy creatures. Aiming and using the flashlight feels smooth, though the lack of gyroscopic aiming in the Switch is a bit of a letdown. I found myself frustrated sometimes navigating Sally because at times the controls may feel a little bit sticky, but that's simply because Sally's just not a fast character to move around, but not enough to make any difference in my opinion about the game. The music and sound are on point. Entering different locations and scenarios, the music sets the tone perfectly. No goofy voice acting here. Let's discuss performance. Not much is expected in terms of performance when it comes to a game like Guilt. Performance is always a big question when it comes to Switch ports, and Guilt runs surprisingly well. The game maintains a mostly stable 30 frames per second with only occasional dips in more detailed areas. Load times are reasonable, and while pop-in and texture loading issues are present, they don't break the immersion too much. If you played the game on other platforms, you'll definitely notice the visual downgrades. For the portable horror experience, it holds up decently. Replay value. Guilt is a relatively short experience, clocking in at around 5 to 7 hours, depending on how much you explore. The game had multiple endings, 3 to be exact. If you wanted to, you could play through the game to achieve multiple endings, although it's not completely necessary because once you finish with one of the endings, you could jump right back in at the end of the story and choose one of the other endings. The only way this may differ is if you do not collect all the ticket fragments. That said, the game is fairly linear, so once you've seen the story through, there's not much incentive to replay it unless you just want to experience the atmosphere again. Now, Guilt was recommended to me from watching one of my buddies, the Radical One, Reggie Williams' video, and he recommended this game, and ever since then, I was curious about picking this game up. So when I visited Super MagFest in Washington, D.C. in January of this year, I decided to pick the game up. Immediately when I got back from MagFest, I dove right into this game. I played it for 2 weeks straight and finished the game. My overall impression of the game, it was fantastic. It wasn't too long, which I don't necessarily prefer too long of a game. It was just long enough. The storytelling was fantastic. I got fully just invested into the storyline. It made it a great game. And honestly, this is one of, if not the first survival horror game that I completed. And I've been on a mission this year, played through a lot more games than I have in the past, and also experienced in different genres of games that I have yet to experience. I like this game so much that I've recently picked up the collector's edition. Now, I got this from Amazon, but it came from Germany. As you can see, this is a PAL region game. I ended up trading in the standard version that I had, but I picked this up. You can get one on Amazon for like $50. It's not expensive. It comes with a few extra cool items. This was one of my favorite games that I played this year so far, and I expect it to be in the top 5 by the time this year ends. I definitely highly recommend picking this game up. You obviously would have to source it out online as a PAL region game, but I don't think it'll be difficult to come across. You definitely can find it. Right now on Amazon, you can pick up a copy of Guilt on the PS4 or the PS5 for about $40, between $40 and $50. The collector's edition you can pick up for about $68, $69, or the standard version on Switch you can get for about $50. My recommendation definitely is worth playing and checking out if you get the chance, especially if you're into survival horrors. It was great storytelling, great plot. It wasn't as difficult. You are going to have some difficult moments where you have to figure things out. As far as the puzzles, you have to learn Sally and the monsters equally, her capabilities, and you also got to learn the monsters as well as far as their movements, what's the best way to attack stuff, the puzzles and the strategy. You really got to think things through with this game in order to proceed to the next level. You really got to pay attention to your surroundings, find out what works, find out what all of these power-ups or items that you pick up along the way and how they can be used to proceed through the game and help Sally rescue Emily. Now, the endings, I'm not going to spoil it. Again, it's 3 different endings. You definitely have to make a choice. Me telling you playing through the game, what I will say is do your best to try to find all of the missing ticket fragments. You will need that when you find your first one, then you'll say, okay, this is ticket fragments, but just be on the lookout for all of those. And that way you can get what may consider the ultimate ending. This game definitely kept me on the edge of my seat. There was times where I was super frustrated because it was difficult to figure out, but once I broke through, it was just a great feeling. The only thing that I have to complain about performance-wise, I did have a couple situations where it did crash. Now, there's autosave settings. I didn't lose where I was, and the autosaves happen pretty frequently. So thank God for that. But it did crash a couple times. It wasn't a huge deal, maybe twice. Maybe that's expected. I don't know about the PlayStation version. If you have the PlayStation version, let me know if you've experienced the game crashing on you. But it did happen on the Switch. Overall, great game. Very highly recommend it. I'll do a separate unboxing of this collector's edition so you can get a better look of what comes in here. Again, my recommendation, I definitely recommend playing it and picking it up. Let me know down in the comment section below. Have you played Guilt? And after watching this review, is it something you're interested in picking up? So until next time.
Thank you for watching. Follow me on all social media platforms at VideoGameVotary.